Hey guys, welcome to Motocross Action's tested video on the 2022 GASGAS MC250 Two Stroke. This bike is a brand new model for GASGAS for 2022, but it's really just a red KTM. It is not brand new technically because the KTM 250 Two Stroke has been around for a long time, but GASGAS was bought under the KTM brand for 2021, and in the first year of selling GASGAS models across the world, KTM did not make a 250 Two-Stroke and a 350 Four-Stroke under the GASGAS name. Now for 2022, both of those models have been added, and both of those are very popular for the MXA wrecking crew. Let's get into the tested video on this bike. So before we get into the differences between the KTM and GASGAS 250 Two Strokes, I do have to explain that we shot the static shots of this bike while it was brand new at Lake Elsinore a few weeks ago. Then we've put a lot of time on this motorcycle. We're starting to wear some parts out on it, and we shot the video and the action portion of this video at Glen Helen Raceway. Overall, the GASGAS 250 Two Stroke is a lot of fun to ride, and there's just a few minor differences between this bike and the KTM 250 SX. Obviously the first one, the red plastics, the red chromoly steel frame, and the fuel tank is actually a little bit different shape on the GASGAS model to fit with the GASGAS shrouds. Also, really the biggest difference is the handling of the GASGAS versus the KTM. Two things, triple clamps and suspension. Starting with the triple clamps, we talk about it in all of our GASGAS videos, all of our GASGAS tests in the magazine. The forged aluminum triple clamps are a little more flexible. They're not brand new for GASGAS. These are triple clamps that have came off of the KTM off-road and enduro lineup. These triple clamps are not rubber damped. They don't have rubber bar mounts on them like the KTM. So solid bar mounts, but also forged aluminum triple clamps rather than the CNC machined triple clamps. So that gives a little different feel at the front end. As I mentioned, the suspension is different. The internals are exactly the same. So these have the new updated WP exact air forks that we really like from the 2021 KTM models. They're the same internals on the forks, just softer suspension settings. So softer valving and same spring rate and stuff like that. There's obviously an air spring for the forks, but the valving is a little bit softer, making it better for novice and vet riders. As for the shock, this is actually the same spring rate as the KTM 250 Two Stroke with softer valving. Other than that, the GASGAS comes with Maxxis Max Cross MXST tires rather than the Dunlop MX33 tires. The GASGAS doesn't come with an hour meter like the KTM does, and the GASGAS retails for $8,199, which is $600 less than the KTM 250 Two Stroke. So diving right into it, how does the GASGAS MC250 run on the track? Well, this thing is fast. Like I mentioned, it is exactly the same as the KTM engine, which means that it needs to be shifted often to ride into the meat of the power. This bike has a hard-hitting bottom end, very, very similar to the KTM Power, except KTM comes with an optional ventilated airbox cover, where GASGAS does not. We did get a ventilated airbox cover from UFO. They make red plastic airbox covers for the GASGAS. They're exactly the same as the KTM. They don't have the lip behind it, and they also have those ventilated holes, so a lot more airflow coming in with that vented air cover. But besides that, the engine is exactly the same. KTM and Husky GASGAS 250 Two Strokes, hard hitting on the bottom end. Like I mentioned, you have to shift a lot with these motorcycles. Comparing it to really the only competition for 250 two-stroke motocross bikes is the YZ250 from Yamaha, and that bike is almost the opposite. It has a super smooth bottom end, and it has a lot of over rev power where you don't have to shift as often. often on the YZ250, making it an easier motorcycle to ride, easier to have fun on really, and easier to manage for novice and vet riders, where the GASGAS 250, KTM, and Husky 250 Two Strokes require a lot of shifting and a lot of skill keeping it right in the meat of the power band where that bike hits strong down low. Diving into the air forks on the WP exact settings that this GASGAS has. Air forks still have a bad rap in 2022, and really when you look back at like the 2018, 2019, and 2020 air forks from WP, they were good and we really liked them, but they were not as good as the 2021 and 2022 air forks that WP has. The new WP air forks come with air and oil bypass holes and bypass notches that really help blow off built up pressure inside of the fork. So I get a lot of friends that ask me, man, I didn't like my air forks, didn't appreciate them on my older bikes, but I always ask them, well, which year model were you running? Were you running 21 or 2020? Because there's a big difference there. We aren't kidding. When we talk about our appreciation for the WP air forks, our test riders really love them. You can definitely feel the 3-pound weight difference in the front ends when you're riding back-to-back with coil spring forks, and we recently got to do a test back-to-back. WP is actually coming out with their own aftermarket spring conversion kits to satisfy the needs of the people who hate air forks and who just can't get their mind over them. It's pretty wild. When WP first told us that they were going to be selling spring fork conversions for their stock forks, it definitely threw me off guard and threw the MXA Wrecking Crew off guard, because they sell air forks on their motorcycles where KYB and other brands make their own spring conversion forks that you can drop into the WP forks. WP sounds like they're a little bit money hungry, wanted to jump into that market as well, selling spring forks, where we tested them back to back with KTM, and personally I was actually just as fast on the air fork, almost a little bit faster on the air fork than I was with their WP spring fork setting. I do understand that some people will appreciate that you don't have to check the air pressure every day. You don't have to monitor it throughout the day if you're riding long motos or if it's getting hot out. So definitely spring forks are a lot easier for maintenance wise, a lot easier for guys who don't like to tinker on their motorcycle. But I appreciated the air forks coming into corners. They squatted a little bit better, gave me a little more traction around the corners, and just overall felt lighter, easier to use, and a little more comfortable on the track for me. So very interesting that WP is making spring conversion forks, but it definitely gives you more options now when you're setting up your suspension for your GASGAS MC250 Two Stroke or any other Austrian models. So diving into really how this bike handles on the track, GASGAS models across the board are a lot softer than the KTM models. KTM is the ready to race brand, while GASGAS is more the fun, edgy, young, youthful brand. They look exotic, they look super cool with the red plastics and the cherry red frame. Suspension settings are considerably softer and tailored to the average rider, a novice rider, and not really a pro level rider that wants to go race on these motorcycles. I raced the Two-Stroke World Championship last year in 2021, bone stock suspension on my KTM 150, and even stock suspension on my Husky 250 Two Stroke. It worked out pretty well. It wasn't perfect, but it was definitely good enough to hold up for me. 20-minute motos on a rough track in the pro class. I ended up third in the 150 open class with stock suspension. Not too bad. Now, GASGAS suspension, a lot softer, something that you will not be able to go as fast on if you're a pro level rider. The softer valving is gonna compress a lot more going into jumps and coming into corners. Another cool aspect about the GASGAS MC250 Two Stroke is the adjustable power valve. So all Two Strokes have power valves. KTM, Husky, and GASGAS, they're the only brands that have adjustable power valves, but they come with a really weird square Robertson wrench tool, really needed to adjust the power valve to open and close it. We always replace the Robertson head wrench screw with a Craftmoto Power Dial 3.0. It's 50 bucks from Craftmoto, but it's super easy to use on the track and it's easy to install on your motorcycle as well. We'd like to back out the power valve all the way out and then go in 1.5 turns. That's technically like the stock and go-to setting for MXA. The cool thing about it is you can adjust the Craft Power Dial on the track. So if you want to have a little less hit off the bottom end, you turn the power dial in. That makes it stay closed longer and open up later, giving you less of a hit off the bottom. Or if you want to get more response coming out of corners, open that thing all the way up, and it's pretty fun to feel the differences on the track. Another note about the GASGAS 250 Two Stroke that we have tested, I really like the chrome and red color scheme that GASGAS has for their bikes. The red frame looks super cool. Then we got the silver wheels, the silver handlebars, the black ODI lock-on grips, matching with the chrome two-stroke pipe. All of it looks super cool, but our 250 Two Stroke actually has black handlebars, the Renthal handlebars with Renthal grips. These are actually leftovers from Justin Barcia, because this is actually the exact bike that Justin Barcia used in all of the GASGAS 250 Two Stroke commercial videos, and it's the bike that he used for the Twirler Designs Red Bull GASGAS factory team's intro before the Supercross season when they went in flat tracking at Blackmore Ranch. They threw some factory suspension, some graphics, flat track wheels, lowered suspension, a bunch of cool trick parts on this bike for him to do some promotional days with. Then when they converted it back to stock, put the stock wheels, suspension all back on it for us, they left the handlebars and grips. So not our first choice, but pretty cool that we get to ride Justin Barcia's bike anyways. So overall, the GASGAS MC250 Two Stroke is a lot of fun to ride on the track. The stock version of this bike has suspension that's tailored towards a novice and really a vet rider, but the engine is tailored for an intermediate to a pro level rider. So if you're a faster rider, you'll definitely need some stiffer suspension to really get the full enjoyment and full, speed and control out of the GASGAS 250 Two Stroke. Or if you're a slower rider, you're definitely gonna have to tune in the power valve and maybe go up a little bit on the gearing just to make it a little bit easier to ride for you. It's definitely gonna take a lot of shifting and a little bit of a learning curve to get used to this 250 Two Stroke power. This thing is a race bike and it's a lot of fun if you know how to use it, but it's a big challenge if you don't know how to use it. So overall, MXA Wrecking Crew has a lot of fun on this bike. If you guys like this video, leave a comment down below. Let us know what you like about it. And this bike's got a lot more in the works for it. We are gonna be turning it into a race bike, and I'm gonna be racing it in the 250 Pro class, the Open Pro class at the Two Stroke World Championships. So stay tuned to motocrossactionmag.com and our YouTube channel by subscribing for more videos from that race and more articles from that race as well. It's gonna be a lot of fun. Thank you guys for tuning in. See you in the next video.